And we are live. Welcome back to Season 1, Episode 2 of the Den of Thieves. And this week is going to be a doozy.
It's going to be a very interesting week for sure, with the news that we have just been made aware of.
Yeah, literally, I think 25 minutes before we went live here, we got Meteos' tweet coming out saying that he's been traded to FlyQuest. So I had just finished watching him play a really convincing Fiddlestick support, and I guess that was his last act on the Thieves roster. So
hey, go out on top is what they always say.
Right? Probably didn't have in mind that he'd be going out as Fiddlesticks in bot lane, but I guess that's the meta we're in. Yeah. So,
and I just found out about this like right before we push go live, basically
3 minutes before.
We'll need some time to gather the thoughts in the background.
Right.
So we're gonna go ahead and recap this weekend's games first before we actually get into the Meteos news and the possible ramifications and what are they gonna do
and what the heck is going on
and what is going on. Yeah, so we'll tackle that. So bear with us. Let's get through the recaps first.
Yep. Before we do that, I'm Jordan.
I'm Cole. Yes.
There we go.
That is the proper way to begin a podcast, is to say who's speaking. That's correct.
We're just a little bit scattered based on what's going on. So, I thought the games this week were awesome. So good. We're tied for first now, right? 4-2. Yeah. I think there are 3 teams tied.
Or it may even be 4.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're at the top of the sheet. It's been a successful split so far. And I don't think there's any other way to put it. Like, it started off rough, but bounced back in a really good way.
I mean, it's still early. But yeah. I mean, we didn't start off so well last split. So
exactly. So Saturday, Clutch Gaming. We had talked about this and hyped it up last Sunday as being a potential game for the ages, just based on the last couple times we played them. And holy cow, man, what a freaking game.
Does that mean we are 100% prediction rate right now? We're on fire, man! Fire!
I said it last time. I said we're going to win the Clutch game, and I'm feeling less confident in that we are going to win that one than that we'll win Optic. So I'm considering myself 100. I don't know if you want to come in and do a little bit of refereeing on that, but
no, you're good with me. As far as I'm concerned, we are 100% right on everything.
Yeah,
no caveats.
We called it. So there's that pat there. Dude, but that game was crazy. I had the same heart palpitations going. I had watched it last night after everybody went to bed, and I couldn't believe it was one of those. So if you watch the VOD, it was like an hour and 15. And I was like, okay, last game of the night. They've got the end of the night talk
and commentary, right? Yeah,
I don't even think it was the last game of the night. It was just a long game, and it was super intense.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of different storylines that we can talk about from this game. What was the one that jumped out at you most, or do you want to start with the draft and kind of talk through that real quick?
Yeah, let's start with the draft. So what we saw Ssumday on Jax, Meteos on Tom Kench, Rio on Morgana, Cody Sun on Zaya, Afro on Rakan, and on CG side we had Solo playing Aatrox, Lyra on Sejuani, Vivin on Lulu, and Apollo on Ezreal, and Hakuho on Zyra. So as I was watching this play out, I mean, obviously you're looking at a gold funneling strat for Zaya, right?
Yeah.
And I had heard that this works. It's like, oh no, Zaya is one of the champions that this works on.
Yeah.
You can make this happen, blah 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 blah. And you've got the Rakan synergy anyway. So when you look at 100 Thieves lineup for this, it's like, oh, okay, it's actually kind of a pretty standard comp with the exception of Meteos going on Tom Kench.
Yeah. And I don't think we've seen Ssumday on Jax either.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen him on.
But I'm sure he's played a lot of Jax.
But yeah, he's got to. I mean, and that's in this meta, we're seeing more Jax on top. So it's not weird. But then when you look at CG's comp, it's like, okay, well, this is just a solid good comp period.
Right.
So I mean, I didn't have super strong feelings on the draft, but I felt certainly like, CG had a little bit better of a result.
I was very interested to see how the funnel strat worked, because we've heard everybody talking about it, and it was one of those where the first time we tried like a new meta comp, it just fell completely flat on its face. That was
It was
game
so
one
bad.
against TL. And I think this is super smart, and I don't know if it's probably who made the call on this or what, but you get a lot of comfort picks, like you were saying, like Zyra Khan. Basically all you're doing is you're moving them into mid lane, and so that, like, I felt better about them playing those two than about Cody on a weird off meta champion that he's not really good at.
Right.
So
yeah.
So the funnel gets started. My main question was, can Cody deliver? Because it's all about Cody in this comp. When we were successful last split, it's because Cody delivered. So that was really my question. Can he do it?
Yeah, and so like I mentally prepared myself. I was like taking notes. I was like, all right, I'm gonna check on the CS. I'm gonna check on the gold and kind of like see how this progresses. Because with Xayah, like, well, at least with Xayah and gold funneling, like, you need to get a couple items in before you really start doing anything significant. And so naturally with the start, I was a little bit wary of what was happening. You know what I mean? Because you've essentially got a kind of like a double support going on bot. I mean, Morgana can hold her own.
Yeah.
With the skilled player, but
it really was like, it was basically Cody with 3 supports.
Yeah. And my first note, it was like, we're already starting to lose bot turret and we're only 3 minutes in.
Right.
I was like, oh
right.
Gosh. But I will say my second note is Rio and Meteos really not looking that bad down low.
I know. I noticed the same thing straight off the bat. I was like, do these guys play bot lane like when they solo queue? Like, they're really convincingly playing this right now.
Yeah, and I think Meteos had like a flash up and he got a kill on Hakuho.
Yeah, dude.
And I was like, huh.
Yeah, I know. Right. It was really crafty. And I was thinking about it and I was like, you know what? He ganks down there so often. He understands how engage mechanics work in bot lane. So the only difference is it's 2-on-2 instead of 3-on-2.
Yeah. And if I'm not, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, it was a flash into an ult, which got a flash and then a binding. And then, like, it just, everything happened. It wasn't even like they got lucky. It was completely planned out. Like, you could tell they have really good synergy, those two, which is, I guess,
we got to put an asterisk next to that one. Yeah.
But that was not like that was not the only time they did that this weekend. So that was cool to see.
Yeah, and I mean, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like I think Tom Kench has actually like seen jungle play, right? Like in past maps.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Meteos is comfortable with Tom Kench already. But still, like, it's just funny is like when they opened so poorly, and then they like turn around, they got a kill, and it was like, all right. And then what we're seeing with the gold funneling strats is like the game just starts to do this, it just starts getting longer and longer, and like not much happens.
Well, so that's a super interesting thing to talk about, because we were winning that game, and I think when we went for the first Baron, where freaking Hakuho with his support steal, if he hadn't stolen that with the Zyra ult, that game would have ended. Like, we would have won that game. I think it would have been close, but we would have at least knocked down the front door and gotten maybe even the Nexus turrets down.
Well, I mean, there were some mistakes maybe for that. I mean, at one point we tried to deny Rift Herald. It didn't work. We lost Rift. We lost a bot turret.
Yep.
Fortunately, that was that was it. Turret. And then we saw Meteos go up and help top to take a turret, but he died in the process.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, well, like, what's really going on? But at the same time, one of the biggest surprises for me was that Sejuani was like completely silent. Like, 15 minutes in, it's like I forgot Sejuani was even playing.
Well, yeah, that was the thing. It was so interesting to watch these two games together, because it was it was almost like we played Funnel Comp 2.0 against Optic, and you could see the differences.
Wow,
and like we learned a lot about what punished us in the first game. But having Morgana, I mean, there was a couple times she black shielded the Sejuani ult. So basic, and that's, you do that, and Sejuani's basically a non-factor in a team fight. So they did a good job of kind of neutralizing that.
But I mean, even 100 Thieves in particular got worked by some Sejuani stuns.
That's true.
In past games of the split. So it's kind of like, I was scared of that. But I mean, and you see some other things. We gave up an Infernal Drake. Mm-hmm. We just didn't have enough to like go in on a team fight. But then shortly after that, that's when we see like Ssumday kind of like start this amazing game because he drove solo off a turret and then took it like all by himself, basically.
I think he got a solo pick on solo, like just killed him on his own. And that's, so this is why I feel like before we learned that we traded Meteos, I was thinking like this is our ideal team comp. Like funnel strat for us is amazing because you basically have Afro Cody, super solid, like first team, all in the split. So there's a really good chance that they're going to get nasty in the mid lane. Then you've got Ssumday up top, and if the jungler is not up there to stop him, he is going to get out of control. He did it both games. I'm talking about another game now, but you could see like he hard carried us in a funnel comp. Like he saved the game on his own without help. Like he went in and landed that stun on 4 people at once and then got a triple kill. Like that's just crazy. And not something you expect, or not something I expect to see, at least when you're talking about a funnel comp where it's like everybody just, protect the puppy, like keep him alive.
Yeah.
It's he can carry us.
Right. And it's that late game carry, right? And that's what we saw in game 2, game 2 of this week, whatever game it was, but against Optic, excuse me, it was Ssumday on a late game carry champ who is providing some pretty incredible, horsepower there towards the end. And you're right, because I mean, think about what happened going into that. Like you mentioned, you get Cody Sun forgetting to use Smite.
Yes.
Giving up a Baron, which is pretty bad. Like I was sitting there like, all right, Smite.
Time it Smite.
okay, that's actually not happening. So that was really bad. And then they cracked right into the base.
Yeah.
And they were just rolling through everything. I mean,
they had the Nexus down about 2/3. It was close.
And then Ssumday just came up, and that's when all my notes go to all caps. It was like and we'll get to this later too, but it was Ssumday with Jax saves everything. Are we really thinking about replacing this dude with Brandini?
Seriously. That is the question, man. I think that, Rift Rivals, I know there's little consequence. It doesn't factor into Worlds, whatever. Like, you still want to win, right? Yeah. It still feels good to win. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Yeah, I'm not either. And I mean, just to, kind of round out this game, he made that amazing play, which kept them alive, but you still had some struggles kind of closing it because we took Baron.
Yes.
And it should have been game, but it was not. And then when you get into those long games, everybody knows the gold lead starts to not matter anymore because everybody's completing their builds. And then it just, from that point on, it was like, all right, team fights and base race.
Yeah,
basically. And there was a second time where we were just like about to be dead and it should have been game over, and like they somehow turned it around. So I mean, it's
we had
Cody Sun, I think backed and picked someone off.
Yeah, he did. It was a base race and he went back and got him. I said Ssumday did it on his own. Cody was there too. Credit where it's due. Like, Cody played really well. You always hope that if you're running funnel, then he's going to be the one who is like 12-0-7 or whatever Ssumday went.
Yeah, 12-0-7.
But that's the strength of the team, right? Is that we have. Oh,
sorry, 12-0-3.
Okay, yeah.
We should be accurate reporters.
Oh, it is 12-1-3. I have it written here. So here's another thing I want to start doing. Well, before we get into the second game, I think that the summary of this one was we got punished in side lanes. Funnel comp, it didn't work in that we got our we got Cody to full build before the other team, but we couldn't finish it before they caught up.
Right.
So,
and so it kind of neutralized the whole point of it. And
yeah.
I mean, he finished 4, 5, and 13. So
Right.
it's like, well, he got some assists off, obviously. But still 4 and 5 on KD. And
yeah,
that's not what you like to see when you're running a funnel strat and you've got somebody up 100 CS.
right.
It's just not what you want to see. But
My,
I think you're right. I think it was like an effective proof of concept almost for how 100 Thieves is going to run the gold funnel.
And my last note from that game is really Brandini.
Yep.
Like,
see,
dude, that dude's got some shoes to fill. This is what I want to start. I want to start doing a Ssumday hard carry ratio. So after this game, he was at 2 of 5 hard carries.
Dang.
Just keep note of that. He's basically won 2 of our 5 games at that point.
Yeah, and there was a third one where he also had like an amazing stat line, where he was he also finished like 7-0-1 or something.
He's been playing out of his mind, dude.
Yeah,
and he's like everyone's favorite dude.
It's hard not to like him.
Right.
And game 2 shows a lot of the reason why. I mean, the most exciting moment of game 1 goes to Ssumday, right?
Yeah.
And the most exciting moment of game 2
yes.
goes to Ssumday too. So we'll get into that. So going down the draft, Ssumday's on game.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I would feel bad not acknowledging. Afro had some insane engages. The flash into the what do they call it, quickness. Anyway, his ult, like he played really well. His engage was so fast that, or no, it was a flash into a stun that popped him up.
Knock up, yeah.
So
and he is doing that, and he's doing that in good angles when they have like limited vision and everything. So he's really, and he'll like turn and shoot on someone with a knock up. So yeah, I mean, it's Afro. Afro's gonna Afro, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's why I feel like it's everybody on the team is playing really well. So that was a tough game, but we got the W. It was close.
Hanging on by a thread, man. There's got to be this bubbling rivalry with CG.
I'm gonna look forward to every one of those games now.
Yeah, how these games have gone. The last few times they played, it's just been insane. So
Yep.
And Optic, is the rivalry that wasn't, because it just hasn't really like.
Oh, I know.
100 Thieves are just doing work on them, So going through the draft, we've got Ssumday on Gangplank, Meteos on Fiddlesticks, RIP. Ryu on Swain, Cody Sun on Kaisa Afro on All-Star, Alarim on, or Lorem, however you say that guy's name, sorry. Well, I can go into a tangent on that, but I won't. On Dr. Mundo, Gate was on Rakan, Power of Evil on Zaya, Arrow on Varus, and Big on the Tom Kench.
The big goal.
The big gulp. That's right.
My notes page. Let me just show you. This is
wow.
That's the clutch game. There's Optic, and a lot of this is just me writing questions like in general for the pod.
Yeah.
That was a slow game, man.
Yeah, because it's funnel versus funnel, right?
Yeah,
and it's just like they even mentioned like the gentleman's agreement. They're like, let me farm. I'm just.
It was so goofy to watch them. Like, you'd see one of them clear out the lane, and then the other one would come in, and the other one they would just leave. It was so bizarre.
Yeah, they were just walking right by, and I do want to back up though, because like this game. We said it was kind of like a proof of concept for 100 Thieves funnel. I mean, it started out the same way too. Like Meteos gets a first blood on bot, and it was a really nice one.
Yeah, I know. It was like it used both the Swain kit and the Fiddlesticks perfectly. Like that was the type of synergy you don't just get from two dudes who happen to find themselves in bot lane together, which is what it seems like this is. But clearly, it's not.
So trade Ryu to FlyQuest, so we get his slot open for Levi. Leave Ssumday. And anyway, but yeah, and my other note other than that first blood was funnel versus funnel. Pretty boring.
Right. I mean, but the game overall was like once the game ended, it was kind of like there's a moment where I was like, oh, okay, it all kind of just snowballed for us, and I think it's because I get the sense that so the proof of concept, like this is us at max funnel, and I feel like we were getting so well developed in each lane that it wasn't like we had this insane spike. Once we started getting picks, though, it was just like the floodgates open and we just walked straight down mid.
Yeah. For me, the turning point was that team fight down on bot where Meteos ulted to get all the minions out from under the turret, and he kind of like turned them around, and then he just like, well, all right, they got three on the right and two deep, so I'm gonna flash over the wall.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was excellent, dude.
It was
just excellent. And then like I think it was that same team fight. It's like their positioning was on point. Like Xayah threw out the Featherstorm ult, and she goes untargetable, but she also throws out all those feathers. And so if you are in the way, it's a lot of damage coming out, and then she'll just E all the feathers back. Dude, they got like right around that ult. That ult did nothing. It's just the positioning was excellent, man. And you just really can't ask for more synergy than that. And then they like took a really nice Infernal Drake shortly after that.
We got a mountain already on top.
But you're right, it was slow because we're looking at 20 plus minutes and there were no turrets down.
Right.
And not for us at least.
Yeah, we want the count.
Yeah.
It was a slow game, but there was a lot of really interesting things going on. One of the things that I noticed is I think Kai'Sa is my favorite champion for Cody. He looks so nasty. I just feel like he plays her so well. Yeah. He seems so comfortable with her kit. And again, going back to, I think it was a Cloud9 game. Yeah, it was Cloud9. The way he didn't even need to kill her instinct really much in this one. At least I didn't notice any fights where that swung the fight. Mm-hmm. But he's just nasty. Like he's a problem on that champion for sure. Way more than I feel like he was on Xayah.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is he did a lot more damage to Xayah. If you look back at the last game, there was one fight where he did 10,000 damage in one fight. And there's a long game, but in this entire game, he did 13,000 damage. So it's just like he was just making smart plays and picking up kills.
Mm-hmm. I think he can kind of hang back and wait for the engage and jump in at opportune times. Like you see that with damage. You've played with brands that did like 40,000 damage over the course of the game, and it's like, oh well, they didn't do anything though. So it happens. But I agree. I really really like Cody Sun on Kai'Sa, and I was kind of surprised that they left that on the table.
Yeah,
I think that's gonna start being banned. You know what I mean? Like I just
2 games now.
If you're the other team, you've got to watch for that. I mean, Kai'Sa's already, one of the few viable ranged ADCs, and you just need to ban it if you see Cody Sun.
Right. I mean, that's the thing though, is this team starts getting really tricky to pick against because I feel like right now you've got to pick against either Cody or ban against either Cody or Ssumday. It's like pick your poison. Who do you want to? And that's the kind of fascinating thing is, when we saw Ssumday dominating with Aatrox, teams were still letting it through. But there's just no easy answer for this group right now.
Yeah. And we saw the really fun gangplank play Ssumday in this one. And that, when he critted the barrel and like took out, what was it? It was like 7/8 health.
Yeah. It's so sick.
On his crit during a chase.
So
and they timed it so well. And actually they had the highlight thing up that I watched like right before we got on, and hearing the team comms, and that, man, they are so calm and like, all right, we'll be there in 3 seconds. Okay, wait for it, time it. It was just like so like they were so casual about we're gonna do this. Right.
And Gangplank saw a ton of play last split, and that was before Stormrazor was even a thing. So now with these guaranteed crits, like it was nasty. It was he was just having fun with them. Like
he eliminated Arrow in one shot, basically.
Yeah.
So
which was basically their team at that point. I mean,
my note on that was, baby, we rolling.
Yeah, right. Like once Ssumday gets going, it feels good. It feels really good.
Yeah. So we finished we 10-0 on kills, which is amazing.
Was it that many? 10?
Yeah, 10. Because right at the end, I think there were 2 more.
Oh yeah, we cleaned out.
So Ssumday had 5 of those, man.
Well, and then
Rio
at the
had
end
3, and Afro had 2. Not bad, Afro.
did he really?
Yeah.
He also had the play of the game in my eyes, which is he was sitting in the bush. He headbutted. I don't know if he flashed too, but he headbutted into somebody.
Oh,
who was it? It might have been Arrow.
And it was like an engage when it didn't really look like a team fight was there.
Or maybe it was a Tom Kench. Yeah, I went back and I watched it, and it was just Arrow in the bush, or Afro in the bush, and then we had people just walking in from the river, from lane. Like it wasn't this insane setup. It was just Afro doing Afro stuff. Like he just he started it. So from that we got Baron really quickly, snowballed into 5 turrets in like a pretty short time, and then 2 inhibs. And that's kind of what I mean when I say like this was funnel working really well. Is as soon as we got a pick, right? It was Afro getting 1 pick, and then it was like before they could get their group back together, that it was 6,000 gold swing. Everything was knocked down. We had 1 inhib down already, chipping down the mid lane. So again, it's like you look at Ssumday and you say, wow, game hard carry for sure. Cody, super solid, super good game on Kaisa.
It's just crazy though because he has 0 kills. Cody finished with 0 kills.
He finished with 0 kills,
5 assists. But I mean, and he looked great. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it was great. Wow. It was great. It was amazing. So you can't really want it to go a different way. Like to have him be that powerful, to not get any kills, and to still blank him like that is, man, like what could go wrong? The only thing you could do is maybe like trade a player and screw it up, or so.
Something like that, something crazy like that.
Okay, should we talk about that then, or do you have any other thoughts on game 2?
Last thoughts. We'll bump the hard carry counter up to 3 of 6. Reduce that down to 1/2 of all games.
Yes.
So think real hard about whether we want to bench him. I would say probably not at this point. And then the interview with Cody's son, I just liked. She said, she's like, how do you handle the pressure of, like carrying your team and not losing it, And Cody's like, that's what I do every game. That's my job.
That's my role.
Yeah, right. But the cool thing is, he's finishing with 0 kills, 4 and 5. Like he's not, he's basically not. I mean, he's not throwing the game, but he's not winning it for us, I'd say.
It's at least not showing up on the scoreboard, right?
Exactly.
I mean he
doing a lot
clearly played very, very well during that.
But it's not like he went off, like he didn't pull off like a crazy stat line where it's like, well, that's.
And he's capable of doing that too. So he just didn't have to. It's like the Warriors when you've got, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green. It's like one of those guys is going to be hot.
Yeah. Exactly.
If Steph Curry has an off night, well, let's just give the ball to Mr. Kevin Durant. It's the same thing. So
and it's like saying he had an off night and that he didn't knock down like 13 threes. Right.
It's only 9.
Yeah, he still played a really good game, but he didn't like set a record. so
that was a pleasurable game to watch, I'll say. So
it was an interesting game to watch. It was a slow burn with a sweet payoff.
Yeah, sure. Fair enough. It got to a good ending. So.
Yeah. Yep. So 2 more ranks, 4 and 2. Pretty good spot.
Right. Tied for first. Going into Rift Rivals, which we're going to see Brandini and Levi. Do you think that's still the case? I mean, honestly, okay, so I guess we have to back up and talk about this a little bit because we got the news earlier this week, right? That Brandini and Levi were going to start Rift Rivals. That, in my mind, is clearly a Levi thing, right? Like Levi's, they want to give Levi some time. It looked to me, and I had said this in the 100 Thieves Reddit and on their Discord a little bit, it looked to me like there was a little bit of like just personality friction with Meteos, and it started to really feel bad, and it was just awkward. And I thought that the way he played this week, I was like, oh, they must have like fixed this stuff.
Right.
Right. But I think in retrospect, it's like, okay, so they tell you Levi is getting the start at Rift Rivals. It's Rift Rivals, not the biggest deal, but you can get Levi some real experience or whatever. But I think it goes back to the franchising thing. It's like the team is not beholden to the players right now.
Right. Right.
And so if they want to send a message like that, especially at Rift Rivals, they can. You know what I mean? They can say, all right. And this is all speculation on my end, of course, but it's, Meteos, we have to solve this problem because we have this other option. And this is what we're going to do if it's going to be better for the health of the team in the long run. So I think this is a purely let's play Levi kind of thing. And then Brandini just comes because of the import situation. So probably everybody listening to this knows that in NA, you've got 2 import slots to use. The rest of your players have to be domestic players. And bringing Levi in tips the counter into 3. So they have to ditch either Ryu or Ssumday from the lineup. Now, apparently that means the package of Levi and Brandini offers more overall than the package of Levi and Linsanity from Academy. So it's just seemed like that's why they're going with Ssumday. But I mean, it's not like Ryu's been playing bad.
No,
but
not at all.
We started a hard carry counter for Ssumday today for a reason. And so packaging with Brandini seems a little bit crazy. But with the import situation, you got to make a call. So do you think this is the right call for them?
Do I think it's the right call?
Yeah. Go with Brandini instead of Linsanity.
Well, I have not watched the Academy guys. I'll be clear with that. So I can't, it's hard for me to say who's better, who's not. I have heard that Levi has not been incredibly impressive with the Academy squad. I know the history on him is that he went to Worlds and basically dominated Worlds, in with his job. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you feel like there's got to be a ton of potential there. The thing that I wonder is, you figure they must have made this decision some time ago, right? And some time being 10 days, maybe, let's say. So Ssumday had not, he was still kind of he had a really good Aatrox game. He'd had an Aatrox game where he got bullied. I feel like this weekend was when he absolutely went off. And just, and for us, it's easy to now say, well, we've seen him now 3 out of 6 games go off. And, but maybe at the time that they made this call, they were like, yeah, okay, he's had a good game. We've seen him do that before. He can, he's played Darius before. He's carried the team before. But maybe at that point they just didn't have, they didn't have all the information we have as we're talking about it right now. And as people are listening to this tomorrow. So it's one of those where it's a hard call to make. And if they made the call because they said, they wanted to get Levi in and Meteos was creating friction, they had to, that's the thing about the import situations. You've got to make calls that are going to be a plus and a minus. Because neither Ryu or Ssumday have played poorly at all. Now, my guess is, they very intentionally didn't make a change to our regular weekly roster, right? And they could have done that, and other teams have done that to prove points. So here's another possibility. Maybe in their minds they do want to go Linsanity, and maybe this is a chance for Brandini to prove him wrong. Could be.
So we really don't know. With Rift Rivals, there's a small, relatively small cash prize, involved in this. But other than that, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So maybe it's an opportunity for us. Okay, this is what we want to do. Do you try what you want to do and see if it works, or do you say, hey, no, we feel pretty confident with Brandini and Levi, with Linsanity and Levi. So let's see what happens if we made the other choice. Right. But it gets hard because I think with franchising situation, you're going to see more and more weird stuff at Rift Rivals. So it becomes kind of hard to compare those teams.
Right. Everybody's going to be bringing some variation of their main squad, I'm sure. One thing I hope is that over time, this develops into us just having basically a 10-player bench. And that we can, give probably the ability to pick his lineup based on the team we're playing against, right? So if he knows that there's a player on our squad who has strengths in certain areas that will go up against someone else really well, bring him in, right? And in order to do that, he's going to have to feel confident, because I would say it seems like he's far from the point where he's going to, although we saw Rikara, scrim with the main squad too. So maybe that's the direction they want to head. It does seem weird to me to have kind of a binary, like a very clear divide between the two squads. And I don't think that's as good for the overall organization. You've got to kind of, and I feel like you see this more in other regions a little bit, where they have, like, they'll have subs, but they call them subs, right?
Yeah.
And it might actually just be a way that their rosters are built, that they'll have like 6 or 7 people on the main squad. But I think that would be a good thing for us, right? To have the ability to flex people in and out, to give people plays too, right? Like, that's not a bad thing to do.
Yeah, it's just interesting because you don't have in-game subs. And so, like, I mean, I'm probably going to wear this sentence out on this podcast, but like, I always go back to traditional sports where, people have their starting positions and they know what that means. And then you have your players coming off the bench that know what needs to be done when it's their turn.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that's ideally what you want out of this situation, but you can't do that mid-game was the only tricky part of it. But I think you're right. Hopefully we go in some direction where we do have, depending on the strat that we're going to run, depending on, the team that we're playing against, we can say, hey, like, actually, Rikara is a really good fit for this one specific thing we're going to do. Or, Brandini is going to be really effective in this situation. So,
like, if you see a team who cannot play against funnel comp, bring the exact same lineup with Meteos today that we had and play that, because we'll win, except we sold Meteos.
Yeah.
But then the other thing I was thinking too is, we do have best of ones. And so in other regions, you get best of 3s, you get best of 5s. Like, you can, in between those games in a series, make changes. So a little bit tougher with best of 1s to actually adjust on the fly. Like, you've got to commit to something, which feels a little bit more like you're making a swap of some sort that's going to have consequence.
Yeah. And like, again, in traditional sports, what you see when the game's on the line is they do not deviate from that. You put your 5 best players in,
right,
and you let them, you live with the result.
Yeah.
But this is about to get really interesting now.
Yeah.
So we'll probably, this really throws like a wrench into our rundown for this episode and how we were going to talk about it, but I think that's okay. Something, that I had picked up on, somebody posted an interview with Meteos in the subreddit this week, where he was talking about the dynamic between the Academy League players and the LCS roster. And he threw out the quotes like, you're training the guy who wants to take your job.
Yes.
Right. And the whole interview, he just seemed very uncomfortable with this situation. And someone pointed out on that thread that a lot of it is probably due to age and maturity, because again, in traditional sports, this is the system everybody knows. There's a hierarchy, there's a pecking order, and like, if you deserve it, you'll work your way up, but everybody has a job to do, and the starters will help train. They'll help work out the other guys, pass on some knowledge. Mio seems 100% uncomfortable with that in this interview, and he volunteers that information.
Right.
The question, that he revealed this on was kind of like, how has it been to interact with the Academy team? It wasn't, well, what do you think about the fact that potentially these guys can come and replace you in a game? You know what I mean? It wasn't the person who's
leading
them or anything like that. Like, he just threw that out there. And so that's how there's a problem. And I mean, we saw it in the heist from last week that he was having like some pretty heated debates with Prawley and Aframu about some of the stuff that's going on. He's the communication issues, blah, 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 blah. And in general, his attitude just seemed kind of off. And I like the dude. Like, I like Meteos. I don't have anything against him, but it just seemed like there was something there. And so you combine kind of maybe a difficult personality from a veteran who's still pretty young in the grand scheme of things. Like, these are not 32, 34-year-old guys who have a little bit more emotional maturity, this and there's less job security in this too. Like, even in a pro traditional sports situation. So I get it, but I just think if they were older, a little more mature, this situation is a little more manageable. But the fact of the matter is, it's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that was one of the things we picked up on. I mean, Heist has always been such an interesting look into the team because, you always wonder what's going through a team's head after they start off 0-2. Like, the split's not that long. There's not that many games. So to start off like that, and Meteos even talked about it, he said, I don't think I've ever started a split 0-2 in my life. So it's a big deal, right? And it carries weight, and you can tell it wears on them. I just, they would be so interesting to know, and it'll be interesting to see if the team puts out any kind of statement about this, because I really wonder, who made this decision? Was this Nate shot? Was it Prawley? Was it was it the owners? Like, who knows? Maybe they got an offer they couldn't refuse. Maybe there's some bills due and they need to come up with funds. Like, who knows? I think they're trading him for an academy player, so I'm sure that they're getting a more favorable, just probably player in cash.
Salary dump. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I hope that they do. And actually, that raises another question, if you don't mind. I think we are in a very interesting time where you've got a brand new franchise, and I think they are just learning about like image and PR and how things come off.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed this when you compared the Heist episode from last week with this week's episode of the Heist, because as we said, like, you paint the picture of Meteos with your editing or whatever. And then Meteos came out, someone pointed this out, that in his like personal stream, he made some comments about how he didn't realize how he came off. He's like, oh, like, I guess I came off, negative, and I need to take some steps to like fix that or whatever, and so if that's happening, you're acknowledging there's a problem. But then whoever's, producing, editing the Heist, they really like took some pretty obvious steps to like show him in a better light. Right. And he's like smiling, and him and Afromu are having like pleasant words with each other instead of this argument about communication.
I picked up on that 100% too. Like, these couldn't have been two more different episodes of the Heist to follow each other, to be paired next to each other.
Yeah.
You could look at it and you could say, okay, 0-2, 2-2, like, lost 2 games, won 2 games. But I think that there was, and maybe they're picking up from the community, but it was like a pretty heavy episode to start this new split off with.
Yeah, they definitely got that feedback. I am sure of it. And like, okay, all right, so we need to dial it back. That's what I mean. It's like they haven't, they're probably all still really new at managing, the feel of your organization among the public. And this is something that, in traditional sports, teams go to great lengths to manage these things. And they issue statements on some topic that have some kind of motivation underneath them to like change public opinion on something, or even to set up players for trades and all that stuff. So, that's something that's definitely there. And I couldn't remember. I wish I had this note down. There was, they showed, I don't know if it was in the highlights of the C9 game, but I think I want to say it was actually the Heist. They showed Meteos' line at the end when they beat him, and they said, "This one's for sneaky," right? He said, "This one's for sneaky boys." Yep. So it's like, all right, well, it's there again. Meteos has this like players versus organization kind of thing going on. It's just in his mind, I think, and unfortunately, that ended up kind of paying the price. So
and Meteos is, he was on Cloud9 in the past, so I'm sure he's still super close with those guys. Yeah, he spent a lot of years there. But yeah, I caught that too, and I was like, "Wow, that's." And so that's what I wanted to ask you about. Like, is there any other sport, esports, traditional, whatever, where a team is kind of doing an ongoing and about as close to real time as it gets, like 5 days later, docuseries about kind of the inner workings of the team, and like with, they've got footage from essentially in the locker room after the match, footage from the the training facilities where they're watching film and break. Like, it just, there is so much that we are seeing that I think, it started off. I mean, I think it's one of the main things that has made the organization successful is that people feel a personal connection to the group.
100%. That's in fact why I am a 100 Thieves fan, is because I saw the first episode of The Heist per your recommendation.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy crap, man, this is awesome. Plus, it's a likable group of dudes.
Yeah.
But getting them painted like that, it's a huge boon for the organization.
And so I think we're now seeing we're seeing both sides of it. And not even saying that to say that this is a bad thing or a good thing. Like, I think it's going to create more fans. Now it'll be really interesting to see how they manage through this trade. I mean, I don't get the impression that this has happened very often in the past for NALCS, where you have kind of half, toward the start of a split, you just trade somebody after the games end for the weekend, and he gets notification and he goes to Twitter. So there are a lot of things that are going to happen that, one, the people who have been in the community for a long time are going to feel some shock about, and that they're going to have to figure out how to now manage through that. Like, can you imagine the next heist that we're going to see?
Yeah.
And if Afro and Meteos weren't getting along very well, maybe, but everybody's going to kind of have to watch what they say and think about how they manage the message on this.
Yeah, it's going to be a big deal. And to answer your question, I can't really think of many examples.
I feel like HBO's got a series they do, but it's more like training camp. Right?
It's training camp. Yeah.
Which
it's different, and it's delayed too.
Yeah. Right.
This is really, like you said, this is same week.
Yeah.
That you're getting all this stuff. And in more established sports situations, you've got reporters who cover the beat of a team.
Right.
And sometimes the players or the team will disseminate information through these reporters anonymously to kind of paint a picture of what's happening. So you get a little bit of that. And yeah. I feel like the general mood or tone of teams and pro sports is known. Like, that's, even pretty quickly, like in the age of Twitter and the age of Woj, like, people just know what is going on in those locker rooms now.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think they've built this thing and it's like, oh yeah, well, now there are some ramifications for how we do this. And I agree that overall it's a great thing for them. I love the series and I think it's compelling and I think it gives you extra reasons to watch, but it's going to be complicated. And we may never get the story. Like, that's the other thing is a lot of the times the story of what happens in, say, the NBA, it comes out eventually. Right. It's like, all right, well, Kyrie Irving asked for this trade because, he felt disrespected that, the Cavs tried to make this move at the trade deadline and LeBron didn't really stop them from trading Kyrie. Mm-hmm. And so, even though the trade didn't happen, Kyrie knew about that. Plus he thought he was ready for a team. Like, all of that information.
Right. We know that now.
Is known. It comes out eventually. And I'm not sure that's going to be the case here. There are some if you saw that interview with Prawley that was posted in the subreddit, there are some very candid interviews that happen, but I wonder if we'll ever get the full story. Like, maybe Meteos is going to, it wasn't on this topic, by the way, the Prawley thing. It was just a very informal interview with Travis outside of the studio. But with Meteos, like, he, in his tweet, he said he doesn't want to play for an academy roster, right? Yeah. And FlyQuest doesn't have a spot. So maybe he'll just retire and tell the story.
Yeah.
That's a possibility. And honestly, like, given my perception of his temperament, I'd say that's not even a remote possibility. That's a decently possible thing to happen.
Right.
But I just to sum it up, we smelled this out, like we sniffed it out. We kind of felt it was coming. I got some people debating me on that.
Yeah.
But now,
now
I know who's right.
Like, I think that's been settled. To me, it doesn't, like, is this a shock? No, it would be a shock if they said we're trading Afromo. That would be a shock.
Right.
That would be me, like, we'd have to cancel tonight's podcast so I could kind of just think about life for a while.
Yeah, like maybe they had to pick between Meteos or Afro. Like, clearly they had something going on in that
Maybe
one.
Afro went to him and said, "Hey, I'm not going to play on a squad with this guy.
Yeah,
Like, he's not good
exactly.
for us."
He was like, all right, well, we got to appease one of these guys. And so you pick your poison. And obviously Levi is waiting. So,
yeah,
that could have surely been the situation. But I hope that we get a chance to find out.
Me too.
What went into it. But at the same time, I'll respect it if they just keep it.
Yeah, like if as a professional, if you go into management's office and say, I'm giving you an ultimatum. And this is all just a hypothetical I'm playing through. You could apply this to any kind of different situation. But if anybody on the squad went in and said, hey, I have, I've got personal stuff with somebody, or as a professional, I can't work with them, whatever. And they said, you need to pick him or me, just let me know. You can't go into someone's office and say that if there's a concern that is going to be put out in a press release. Like, no organization is ever going to say one of our players came and made a demand that we couldn't ignore, and so we had a choice to make, because you would be completely betraying their trust. Like, in an organization, you have to have confidence that you can go to somebody and say that without consequence of basically, it's not like, it's not character assassination because it's true, but there are hard things like that come up that you need to be able to say if that's what needs to be said.
That's true. But you're talking about official channels there. You know what I mean? Like, this happens all of the time in traditional sports, and it's because of unofficial sources or anonymous sources, whatever you want to say. So I agree. I don't think that that sort of thing is built up enough in league for that to really happen. But at the same time, we've got players who will live stream like every other day, and they may just chat about it.
There will be some chatter for sure.
It's kind of like the wild, wild west of all this stuff. That's why it's so great to watch right now, is we don't know what the rules are. We don't know what the patterns are.
Right.
We don't know what's off limits, what's on limits. We just don't know. So maybe, something explosive will come out this week, and we'll have
a non-disclosure. Right.
But and until then, my take on it is going to be, the writing was on the wall based off of his attitude. Conflicts with Afro that seemed to be happening, maybe not a constant thing. Conflicts with Prawley. We saw in the heist, Afro was talking about how good of a communicator Ricaro was. Did you catch that? He threw out the word communicator. Like, I think that was shade.
Well, and he said, he also said, Ricaro is a nice guy. He plays pretty well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so it could be Afro being Afro, but
just his understated way. But no, that's that too. And I was like, all right. So this week's heist was definitely a response to last week's heist in more than one way.
Yeah.
And it was super telling now. Like, if you want to know what's going on with Thieves, watch the heist and really kind of think about what it is they're showing us, because everything is in there. There's actually a really interesting scene too, where it's them all sitting around in the team room, and Nate shots, and the guy's like, they're going to cut this part. Nate shots like, they're not going to cut it. And then Nate shot was like, I've got final say on everything that goes in. And he said it as a joke at the time, but I was like, I bet that's 100% true.
Yep.
Because Nate shot is a YouTube guy. He knows how to make stuff. He knows how to kind of create a narrative, and like,
he's built this thing by his sheer force of will. So
I guarantee you he has every shot call on what goes in. The very end of the last heist was so interesting to me, and we have to talk about it. You remember how it ended?
You're talking about the one before this week?
It was the one that just came out last Friday, like 3 days ago.
Oh,
so they're all sitting around. They're all sitting around the team room. They've got like some music going. And then it just kind of like fades out, and it goes back to Afro on stream, which is kind of like the theme of this one, Afro streaming.
Yeah. And
it's like something is going on, and he says, unlucky. And then he goes, good night, lads. And that's what it was. It was the audio from the dive. And they were talking about.
That's right. Yeah.
Like, what was that ending, dude? It was so weird. And now, like, you could read into all of that really, really closely if you wanted to. But just Afro saying unlucky at the end, like, such a strange way to end an episode of a heist.
Yeah. Well, they are very good at making this thing compelling.
But go back and watch that. I'm gonna go back and watch it now too.
Yeah, I will
after.
rewatch for sure because I wasn't
Yeah.
paying close enough attention to really pick up on how weird it
I
was.
mean,
But I did process that, like, from the dive, that, that conversation. I was like, man, they're really playing a lot of this. And it's kind of so.
I know. Crazy week.
Yeah, it was a crazy week. Predictions for next week. What do you think?
Predictions. I don't even know who we're playing next week. Do you know?
No, we are so professional.
On the fly. I mean, honestly, I was going to look it up and then I saw Meteos' Twitter. So give me 1 second.
I was going to say, I kind of I didn't think about it. And I was like, oh yeah, he did it. Well, Rift Rivals is next week.
Rift Rivals.
That's right.
Week.
I knew that. Rift Rivals. So how's it going to go? Well, Levi is going to probably underwhelm a little bit. And we're going to be like, yeah, you got to keep Ssumday in. That's my prediction.
That's your prediction?
Yeah.
My prediction is Levi is going to go off in at least, I'm going to call it 2 games. I think he's going to, and I'm not saying he's going to hard carry us, but I think he's going to
specific there.
He's going to come up with some plays in the jungle that make people go, wow, because this is the stage on which he made his name. I think international play is good for him, and I think it'll be fun to watch him do that. I don't think it's going to translate into us. I'm not saying we're going to lose these games, but I don't think that alone is going to translate into us winning. But I think he'll show off. I think he'll style a little bit in the jungle. So I'm going to be watching him for sure.
Well, it'll be, a fun thing to watch, if nothing else. And I imagine we'll see a lot of experimentation from teams in various forms.
Yeah, I mean, I hope the European teams bring their stars. I hope they at least. I'm sure they're disappointed we're not bringing Ssumday. Now that this is all happening, or maybe not.
It'll be entertaining regardless.
Yeah, no, I can't wait. This is gonna be my first Rift Rivals, and I'm a big rivalry guy, so I hope that people actually come to play.
Yeah,
see how it goes. And then the next league games NALCS games we're playing TSM on Saturday 14th, and we are playing Golden Guardians on the 15th.
Well, we don't need to talk about the 15th then, but TSM is in the weird spot, right, where it's kind of like they could be.
They're playing better this split than they did last, for sure.
Yeah, they could be good.
Yeah,
maybe not. I mean, they in fact they beat Golden Guardians today, I think, right?
Yeah, easily.
And they beat Cloud9 too. I was just looking, so maybe they're good.
Honestly, I think
pretty split.
I'm assuming we'll have a new jungler starting, unless this is all a joke. So I'm going to say I am taking TSM because they're strong, and this is going to shake up the team a bit. And I still got us over Golden Guardians.
Yeah. I'm going to say the same, actually. I'm going to say Rift Rivals kind of takes away some of our opportunities to focus as much as we possibly could. And with the, significant, you're going to change out 2 members of the team, barring some unforeseen signing of a domestic jungler.
We're getting Anda from
2 new players.
Academy.
And hopefully Prawley's got this formula down for the gold funneling for us that he's just going to be able to plug and play, but I kind of doubt that. Plus, there's probably patches coming that are going to interfere with the gold funneling strat anyway. So
that gave me a really interesting thought. We have seen other teams bring in players who look at our comp today. We could bring in a support player to play bot lane with Ryu.
Huh.
You don't need to have a jungler to play bot lane. Meteos is not. I mean, he was really good down there, but it's not because that was his role. He's just good.
I think that'd be a Band-Aid, though. There's no telling how long this is going to go on.
Yeah, no, you're right. But that's something we hadn't talked about or thought about that could happen.
You're creative, good sir. I'll give you that one.
That's right. All right. Well, we're right about at the hour mark. Shall we wrap this up? And
let's mention the giveaway really quick because 100 Thieves is partnering with StockX. For those of you who don't know, Dan Gilbert, who's a major investor in 100 Thieves, is also a major investor in StockX, which is a mostly kind of like streetwear focused sneakers trading
that a service you've used?
selling thing. Yeah, actually, I have sold a pair of Yeezy Wave Runners on StockX.
There you go.
But they're like an authenticating middleman. So
Yeah.
when you buy stuff like that, you want someone in the middle who can kind of like protect everybody in the transaction.
So they don't send you two bananas in a shoebox.
Right, and no one gets ripped off. So, but anyway, they've partnered with 100 Thieves to give away a pair of Yeezy V2 350 Zebras, which are black, white, and red. So they go with your 100 Thieves get-ups, if you want to say that. But yeah, so all you have to do basically is download the app, follow them on Instagram. I think like the YouTube video, and then just comment your shoe size. So if you haven't seen that, there's a standalone video on the 100 Thieves YouTube channel for the StockX thing, where it's kind of like Nate Shot buys everyone Yeezys or something like that.
Yeah.
Click there, leave your shoe size in the comments, and
do Yeezys run true to size?
Yeah, I mean, if you know your Adidas sizing, Adidas tends to be a tiny bit smaller than Nike, maybe, but I would call it true to size for sure. So,
all right, we're not sponsored, just right.
We're not sponsored. Maybe someday in the future we'll be sponsored by Adidas or Yeezy or
100 Thieves
or 100 Thieves. But no, this is the unofficial, unsanctioned fan cast.
Hopefully, they don't actually, they don't go the opposite way and shut us down. I think you can talk about anything, right? This is still country.
Fair game. Yeah. And I don't know. I won't make that joke, but let's wrap it. Thank you for joining us.
All right. We'll see. I'll plan to do one next week after Riff Rivals is done, right? We're still on for that?
Yeah, we'll still be on for Riff Rivals, and we'll see how we end up covering that, but there'll be plenty of stuff to talk about, I'm sure. So maybe more Meteos news. Who knows?
Yes. A lot more news, I'm sure. So catch us in a week. Thanks for listening. This has been Down with Thieves.
Leave a review in any of whatever app you're using to grab the podcast. Please leave us a rating and a review. We saw that we had a good number of subscribes in the past week, which was awesome and unexpected. So if you did that, just do us a solid. We would absolutely love that. And we'll be here again.
All right. See you in a week.
All right. See you in a week.